So I'm actually stood next to the pile of waste that was tipped in Oxford, and as you can see, it's even just at this lower point, it's over 10 feet high. And coming up close to really see what it is, it's clear that this waste is not just the work of a casual fly tipper. It's been pre-shredded into really small pieces that looks like something that you would see ready for an incinerator. It's clearly much more of an industrial operation that's been done, either part of a legitimate commercial operation that somehow had someone intercept it, or someone who knows the way to disguise this waste and has deliberately shredded it to hide the evidence. I just bumped into a local councillor who said that sort of in the last 24 hours, actually the Environment Agency have completely fenced it off. Special order notice put in, so basically you can't get to the site. The lady said that basically there could be asbestos or anything here. Given the nature of the rubbish, it does prevent people from getting injured on whatever the heck is in that pile. Even just looking at the piles that have been left in there, honestly, it's even more waste than I could have imagined looking at this online. I don't think I really grasped the scale of this operation. Like, it's not a fly tip, it's effectively an illegal landfill. The piles, I would say, are 5 meters high easily, and then there are also these land embankments that have been made with a digger. You can see just by the fact that there are leaves covering all of the waste that this has obviously been here for longer than just a few weeks. And seeing the scale of this, there must have been trucks upon trucks upon trucks upon trucks coming in and out of here for months. So how was this not interrupted by the Environment Agency? This site has now, in the last 24 hours, been blocked off by the Environment Agency. In my research, I've learned that the Environment Agency actually knew about this from July. That was 4 months ago. They've put up boards to prevent people accessing the site, and the ironic thing is that they've also put up cameras. And if this had been done just 3 to 4 months earlier, potentially this could have been prevented. And now, when the river inevitably floods because this whole area is a floodplain, that waste is going to start washing downriver into the River Cherwell and into the city of Oxford, which is only 3 to 5 miles downstream. You know, the River Cherwell is a place where people do a lot of outdoor recreational activities. They do a lot of outdoor boating, maybe even outdoor swimming. And the runoff alone from this site could be absolutely catastrophic. When it rains, any organic pollutants, any PFAS, any harmful chemicals that are in here will leach out of the entire pile into the river and potentially even into the groundwater. And that has to be dealt with. That's going to impact the river, that's going to impact the ecosystem, that's going to have a potentially catastrophic impact on the local wildlife in this area. And honestly, to think that it could have been prevented just breaks my heart. Okay, so if I were you, I would certainly have a bunch of questions after that I'd want answering. I think one of those main questions would be, how did this happen? Who's going to deal with it? And what is going to be done to it? And I actually work in the waste and recycling industry, so I'm going to say that I'm kind of reasonably qualified to speculate about some of those answers. So the first question that I think a lot of people want answering is, how did this actually happen? So I open up Google Maps, satellite data here, and I'm on the historical imagery. And you can actually see that as far back as the 13th of June, there were already excavators in to this site preparing the ground. And what's incredible is that you can actually see one of the diggers that have been brought in and they've basically just completely flattened this site, and you can see they've also started to pile rubbish up there. And that was one of the things that I noticed when I visited the site, is the very clear, obvious marks of big excavators there, and that just shows that it wasn't just a casual fly tip. This is just going to be purely speculation, but from kind of speaking with colleagues, we think that maybe what's happened is typically when our waste is collected from our houses or from a commercial place, it's taken to some sort of material recovery facility. That's usually the case for household waste, so it's sorted into its constituent parts, and then if it's going to be sent to landfill or incineration, it can be shredded to make it easier to compact. And then you also have transfer stations and different kind of locations in between the waste being collected and in between the waste being disposed of. So what's probably happened is that someone has managed to get in between the two parts of the process and has basically said to someone, hey, we'll take your waste to the landfill or to the incinerator for less of a fee than you would have otherwise paid for it. So what we can actually do is we can use the feature on Google Earth that allows you to measure an area, and from that, because I know roughly how much waste fits into a certain space, we can then sort of estimate how much waste is there. So when I first actually looked at the photos and the videos of this site, I thought that it was just this narrow strip of land that had actually been filled, but now that I've been there in person, that's just a very small part of it. So I'm going to start here, and I think a lot of estimates online have basically said that it's about 10 metres approximately on this area, and that's where it's piled really, really high. But also, when I visited this site, I was standing on the main road looking in, because they've closed it off and you can't access it. But the pile that I was looking at was all along this area here, and that was where it was probably 3 metres high, I would say. And then all along this right hand side was equally, was actually even higher. It's probably 5 metres high there. So I'm going to include this whole area here where it had been piled up, and then if I sort of make a conservative estimate that these areas weren't as full, and so I'll maybe just exclude those to be, so I'm not overestimating things. I'm gonna, like I said, make a kind of conservative estimate that on average it's about 5 metres high. So that comes out at about, call it 7,000 metres squared. And at 5 metres high, that's about 35,000 cubic metres of waste. When waste gets compacted in a bale, they're usually compacted in 1 tonne units. So this is what waste looks like when it's baled, and each of these cubes will be 1 tonne. So you can kind of roughly say that 1 tonne of waste is about 1 metres cubed. But that basically tells us that at an absolute minimum, there is 35,000 tonnes of waste there. And I've seen people saying that there is, hundreds of tonnes or thousands of tonnes, and that just does not track to me. That just doesn't add up. Actually, looking at the size of this area, it's tens of thousands of tonnes that have been dumped here, and that most people are saying that this is the largest illegal landfill, largest illegal waste dump that's ever happened in Britain. Now, normally when someone transports waste from one place to another, they are legally required to have a waste carrier license, and they should also have what's called a waste transfer note, and that basically says that you're legally taking responsibility for that waste and you're going to deal with it properly. And so perhaps someone had a fraudulent waste transfer note, or they might have even had a real waste transfer note and they've just lied about it. But it definitely seems like some part of this normal process that's supposed to happen has been intercepted by someone, And that would explain the vast quantity of waste. It seems that it's not just one type of waste. When I was actually there the other day, from the images of the sort of biggest pile, that seems to be mainly household waste with kind of, you know, things that you and me would throw away mixed into the pile. But actually, the part that I was stood near all looked like industrial waste, or the kind of things that you would find in like building sites and like commercial industrial sites. So it's all been mixed in, presumably so that the authorities can't find out where it's come from. Hopefully the Environment Agency will actually be digging into that waste, and will be looking for receipts or any kind of information that can be used to trace where that's come from. And then they could hopefully start making some serious prosecutions. So the next question then is what's going to be done with it? And I hope personally that the Environment Agency will take responsibility for this. So there's already some sort of precedence for this to happen, because there was a similar dump that happened in Kent. I believe it was 2 years ago, and that was at a place called Hodes Wood, where a similar massive waste dump took place. And so there's been a huge cleanup operation by the Environment Agency, who are now taking responsibility for that and are actually cleaning that up themselves. So hopefully that's what will happen here. It seems like it's going that way, given the way that the Environment Agency has stepped in. So that kind of leads me on to what will happen to it. Well, given the kind of amount of news coverage this has had, there are already petitions online. So in the kind of spirit of keeping this optimistic and, you know, giving you and me things that we can actually do about this. So I'm going to share a link to a petition that's been started by the Friends of the Thames and Save Our River Cherwell, and that is basically asking that the Environment Agency takes urgent action to prevent this catastrophe getting any worse. And it also is demanding that the UK government ring fences specific funds to allow this to be cleared up as quickly and as safely as possible. So if that's something you'd be interested in, feel free to sign that petition, and then hopefully that will get brought to the attention of government to kind of show that people really care about this being cleaned up quickly and safely. I'm not going to say anything about the people that did this, because I don't think there are profanities bad enough to describe those people. But the systems in this country are supposed to prevent this from happening, and what I really want to know is, why didn't that happen?